Okay, this is going to be a series of short videos about language, literacy, and reading. So let me share my screen. Okay, I've been thinking a lot about the New York State English Language Arts scores for Mount Vernon students. I put this table together. It's color coded so you can follow a cohort. For example, if you follow the third graders in 2016, they were eighth graders in 2021. I blacked out 2020, those scores. I don't even know if they took New York State tests in 2020. I don't think they did. I think there were just not enough. There wasn't enough of a sample. So this is the percentage of students who met the proficiency standards. The way it's done in New York State, it's four levels: 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 and 4 are at or above proficiency. 1 or 2 are not. So in 2016, 31% of the third graders met the standards. So that's really what this table is showing you, just showing you the percentage of students by grade who met the ELA standards. These scores are low. Of course, they're low all over the country. They're low in the state. Um, the only reason I'm focused on Mount Vernon is because I live in Mount Vernon. I care about Mount Vernon, and I care about the performance of our students. And it perplexes me that we can't, we can't have higher reading scores. It seems to me we should have these numbers bouncing around between the 75 and 95% of students at the 3 or 4 level on the tests. Um, and you can see there's a little bit of movement over time. The standards changed in here from 21 to 22. The state changed the way it's measurement. I included it anyway, just because everything's around the same area between 30 and 50% about there. The highest number is 54% meeting proficiency. That happened in 2021. So it's bad. And I put it so you could follow to see the change over time. So imagine if you had, I don't know, 100 kids in a grade. So you say, 31 of the third graders in 2016 met the proficiency standards. Well, then in 2017, they were in fourth grade. An additional 2 kids were pulled up into the proficiency. When they were in fifth grade and they were tested, they dropped down. Fewer than who met the proficiency in 2016 met it, and so on and so forth. So by the time they're in eighth grade, they're still less than half. So, that should be the trend, that each year a few more kids are passing. But the message that we've learned about reading is if you're not proficient by third grade, you're going to struggle. It's going to be a struggle. And certainly if you're not proficient by eighth grade, you're in bad shape. It puts you in very difficult circumstances. It just takes a lot of work to overcome that. So why are so few students meeting these standards? It's a challenge that we've as a nation are facing, certainly as a state, and that in Mount Vernon, I'd like to see that change. Here are 4 reasons that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to make this a 4-part video. I want to talk about each one of the reasons, but here are the 4. Early language experience. Can't overstate how important that is. If you have really solid early language experience, it sets you up for success when you get into school. Dialect prejudice. This is a prejudice against African American English. We're going to talk about that. We're going to spend a considerable amount of time talking about what that means and why that matters. Education philosophy. This is important too, and it drives number 4, which is instructional practices for reading. We've heard a lot about reading and the so-called reading wars. That matters, but it's only one part of the bigger picture. So these are 4 elements that we'll touch today. In this first video, I'm just going to talk about early language experience. So here we are, early language experience. The early experiences children have very early in life, before the age of 2, will make a big difference in later school performance. It's going to impact literacy, certainly reading, writing, speaking, Executive functioning, the ability to plan, follow rules and directions, focus, maintain good self-control. Even math ability is going to be influenced by your facility with language. Certainly social skills. A lot of social skills involve the ability, your communication skills, your language skills, and then emotional development. Take, for example, if you are in some sort of therapy to improve your emotional well-being, a lot of that is based on dialogue, dialect. So good language skills are helpful, and it all starts in early childhood from the beginning. Here's a quote: children's early life experiences during sensitive periods of neuroplasticity shape the brain structure. This is something that's important to keep in mind. I'll put a couple of quotes up here. I'm not going to read them all, but neuroplasticity, brain science. We know now how the brain is plastic, and if we're able to sort of shape the experiences at the right time during the right windows, we can really it can have a profound effect on future learning. This is from Romeo, 2018. And here she's talking specifically about the effect of conversational experiences, parent-child interactions on Broca's area. And this is independent of things like socioeconomic status and IQ. This is just critically important. She focuses on this. Part of it is you see the title of this is Beyond the 30 Million Word Gap. There was this catchphrase. It was probably a good thing for a long time, talking about this 30 million, this supposed 30 million word gap between children in upper SES households, parents with a lot of education, and children from poor households where parents did not have a lot of education, and that there was this supposed 30 million word gap, and that had a huge impact on future learning. It's not really that quantity is not really accurate. I think it's more metaphorical at this point. It just describes it. Yeah, it's important. So she's talking about getting beyond that and really focusing on the quality of the interactions. Certainly quantity is important, but quality is important. I'm going to talk a little bit about that now. So quantity and quality of parent-child language interactions are both important. Quality, we're talking about conversational turn taking around books, stories, anthropomorphic toy play. That's getting silly, taking hand puppets and animals and animating them, having them talk and talking through them. These are all really important early experiences, language experience that should be unfolding frequently between parents or caregivers and their children. The use of a rich and diverse vocabulary in the home is very important. This is where educational background can be a big advantage, but it can be overcome with intentionality, really focusing. If you're a parent and you feel like you don't have a strong vocabulary, working to improve your vocabulary, picking up the dictionary, reading books a lot, that's important. You want to impart that onto your children. And then three, perhaps most importantly, because of the collateral effects that it has, is a highly affirming interaction style. And this goes back to Hart and Risley. And the idea here is that it's optimal to have 6 affirmative statements for every 1 prohibitive statement that a parent gives to a child. Prohibitive statements are things like saying no, stop it, be quiet, shh. Things that signal to the child that you don't want to hear them, that you don't want to interact with them. You want to minimize those, and instead the opposite. Yes, yes, do it. Please speak up. I want to hear your voice. Things like that. And here's why it's important, because frequent prohibitive statements used by parents are associated with low rates of conversational turn taking, and low rates of conversational turn taking are associated with poor school performance, struggling with the things I described early, literacy, executive functioning, math, social skills, emotional development. So we trace it back. We want to minimize those prohibitive statements and maximize affirmative statements. We want to be really positive in our language interactions with our children. That's important. And as I mentioned, that's from Hart and Risley. The Hart and Risley book, that's a meaningful, the book is in 1995, is Meaningful Differences in the Everyday Experiences of Young American Children was the title of the book. Fantastic book. It really caused a big stir. We're going to talk when we get to the video, we talk a little bit about philosophy. It's a factor in how people view these things. There were pushback, not a lot, but some pushback on some of the findings, particularly around that 30 million word. I don't know if that came from Horton Risley, but their point was the amount of language that you use with your children and the quality of those language interactions are very important for the long-term educational and social emotional welfare of your children. So take it seriously and do it right. So what to do about it? One, in parent education and training that we do in the school district, we can really focus on the importance of early language experience, and go over those elements explicitly, the importance of using affirmative an affirmative style as opposed to a prohibitive style, looking what are the barriers to doing that, a rich vocabulary environment, providing that for our children, and then conversational turn taking and play, language-based play. If we sort of focus our parent education and training for our very parents who have very young children in the community around these things, that will have a positive impact. And then number two, more if we need more specific intervention tools, this language environment analysis, Lena, is fantastic. I'm just going to call up the website here. So this is Lena, the language intervention. This really came out of the work that was done by Hart and Risley. They make a wearable device that can track parent-child interactions. It's not like Big Brother or anything like that. It's not like someone's going to spy on you, specifically, but it's going to track the quality of interactions, the frequency of interactions. That's just one of the things that Lena does. I would suggest, if you're interested, go take a look at this website. Um, it's it's pretty cool what they do. They offer a lot of different tools here. And if you're interested in the research about why you should increase your conversational turn taking skills, they can lead you to the research of that right here as well. So, okay, that's the first part of the four-part video. And the next one, we'll talk about the dialect prejudice that exists against African American English. All right, take care.